What's up, guys? How is it going? You got Daisha here coming to you live from Anaheim, North Dakota with my guest Mel here. Super excited to be here with you guys. We got episode number 3 of the Teen Warrior Summit interview series. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it. And we are back. All right, Mel, thank you so much for being here with me today. Can you tell everybody a little bit about who you are and where you are coming in from?
Well, Daisha, thank you so much for having me on here. I am so excited to be, part of the whole event and be interviewed by you today. So my name is Mel Andre. I am a confidence coach. I am a TV host, an international best-selling author, and a podcast host as well. And my mission in life is just to inspire people, to motivate, educate, and empower people to be their best self and give them the confidence they need to go ahead and do that.
Man, I love that. Love it, love it, love it. And as you guys start jumping on, please drop a hashtag live in the comments below. If you are watching the live, that way we can give you a proper shout out. Arthur, man, you're jumping on live. Appreciate you so much, brother. So, Mel, you said that you're a confidence coach. Just for a little bit about who doesn't know what that is, what exactly is a confidence coach?
So as a confidence coach, I help people find that confidence that's already inside of them, because most people who kind of lack confidence don't realize that they actually have that confidence already inside of them. And my job is to help them push it up to the forefront so they can show that confidence that's buried deep, and sometimes it can be very deep down inside them, so they can share their confidence with the world and do exactly what it is that they want to do, whatever it is that is.
That is awesome. I love it. I love it. And as she said right there, guys, that was really important. It's already inside of you. My friend Travell, who's also a speaker on this here, he says the same thing. We already have that self-confidence. We already have that self-love. It's just working on bringing it up to the surface. So, Mel, were you already like really confident all growing up? Was that something that you kind of formed? Like, when did that start happening?
So it's a really funny story because I was super confident. I mean, as a child, I was extremely confident. People would tell me she's like more confident than someone her age should be. And just moving into it, I've always had like the sense of confidence. And some things happened, actually 2 major events happened in my adulthood that we'll kind of get to later, that drained my confidence, completely drained and destroyed the confidence that I had. And I had to work on rebuilding that. And as I started rebuilding that, I realized that I needed to put in place a solid foundation of confidence. So no matter what happens around me, I don't get knocked off that confidence pedestal. So now if anything happens, I still have my confidence because it's true confidence. Because sometimes we'll think that we have confidence, and it's a little bit of cockiness that we have. And if you're cocky, you'll get knocked right off anytime something bad happens. So I had to develop that true confidence, not that cocky behavior that I had when I was
the
younger.
Egotistic behavior. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people that kind of have that like ego mentality, like you said, they get knocked off really high. They build up like all this confidence. Oh, I'm doing really, really great. And all of a sudden they're at this super high level, and then boom, everything falls out from under them. So with that being said, you said that you kind of always had confidence. Do you feel like your parents kind of played a role in that? Like, were they always kind of like cheering you on and telling you that you were a good person? Like what kind of came about of that?
So my parents really did a good job installing confidence in me. So I think that was something that was really important with my parents. It was both my parents, but definitely my mom. It would be little things that she would do to ensure that I was confident in myself, not just on stage, not just performing or doing things like that, but just in the littlest of things. So I'll give you a big example. And I think it's something that with younger kids you can do, having the confidence as a child, and I mean like a young child, to go up to a fast food, like the counter, and order your own food. Like things as small as that help build these little foundations of confidence. So she'd be like, no, I'm not going to do it. If you want it, you have to go do it. So I became in the habit of being confident no matter what situation I was in. And even if I was afraid, even if I was kind of nervous, she would be there like as my little cheerleader cheering me on. I'm like, nope, you can do this. You can do it. It was always that you can do it. And these little things help me build confidence, because sometimes you'll see people they'll be confident in one scenario, and then you put them in another scenario and they have no confidence. So as a child, I was confident around my peers. I was confident around adults. I was confident with my teachers, with anyone that came across, because my mom put into place these little scenarios where I would build confidence no matter where I was. So I could talk to adults in a confident manner and not be afraid. I could talk to people who may have been at, like a higher level and not be afraid. So I really have to thank her, and actually both my parents, but she was one who really was like that driving force to help me do that.
That is really cool. And I like that she did it when you were at like a younger age. Naomi says, "Hi guys, so excited for the interview."
Hey.
Naomi actually says this all the time. The first like 7 years of your life is kind of when you're downloading all of that information. So the fact that she started that out when you were a young kid, like I'm sure really helped with it now. So for like parents, like you were saying, so do kind of pushing kids out of their comfort zone in little situations will kind of compound into them kind of building up that confidence, is what you're saying.
Exactly. But not just push, because I'll see a lot of times parents try and push their kids into things where they may not be ready to be pushed. And even if they're in the sense not ready, still kind of holding their hand so they can, again, do it on their own. And even as they're afraid, cheering them on, because you need to give them that push. Kids are going to be afraid. Like at a certain point, kids develop fear and they're going to be afraid, but you have to also be there to encourage them. And even when they mess up, because everyone messes up. I mess up every single day of my life. Like I'm happy where I am in life, but I know that I've had failures in my life, and I'll continue to have failures because failures are just learning lessons. But for kids, for teenagers, when your child fails, it's okay. They need to learn from the situation, and you can't berate them, because if you berate them, that's pulling them further and further away from the goal. So as they're failing, tell them, hey, you tried, you did a good job. Try this way next time, or like just have that encouraging vibe with your kids or with your teenager.
I love that. That is awesome. So guys, basically be observant, right? Be aware of where your kid is at right now. When you're putting them in a situation when you're pushing them outside of that comfort zone, analyze the situation first, right? Is this going to be something where they can handle? Can you push them a little bit? And then, like she said, be there on the stand line to basically hold their hand if they fall, right? Get them back up and get them back up on that high horse to keep pushing. So Mel, you talk a lot about like kind of controversial things on your like interviews and on your videos. So I want to kind of ask you something a little off subject when it comes to your personal story. So a lot of us use social media as kind of a way for our business. It's a great way for us to all communicate. But when it comes to social media, do you personally feel that although social media is really great, right? It could also kind of be a part as to why kids become less and less confident and kind of have emotional struggles at younger and younger ages?
Yeah, so I think social media is amazing. I think it's a great way for us to communicate all across the world. We're using social media platform right here and now. And since you say that I talk about controversial things, because I do, I'm gonna bring up something quite controversial that's in the States right now. Because outside of the States, it's not that controversial. But the movie Cuties, right? So I watched the movie because I talk about it on my show. So in the movie Cuties, something that happened was the young girls who didn't have that baseline confidence saw online these women were getting praised. Again, older women were getting praised because they were using sex for currency, in a sense, like they're using their bodies, so the dancing, the things that may be okay when you're a little bit older, but not at that young age. They're using that to get attention, to generate likes, to build what they thought was building their confidence. Because the more likes that they got, the more confident that they got. Now, a lot of people don't know that movie was based on 100 interviews of girls who are age 11. And they interviewed 100 girls in Paris to see how they were living their life. And everything that you're seeing, these are accounts from these 100 girls that they interviewed. So yes, the movie is quite provocative. The movie should make you upset. Like, it should be gross to watching 11-year-old girls behave like this. But the point of the movie was to bring to the forefront what young women, age 11 and a little bit older too, what young women were actually dealing with. So now, like taking a step back and bringing it to the real world, you'll see that teenagers, kids will emulate things that they see on social media because in their mind, likes generate confidence. If people like what you're doing, then it's like your confidence is going to build. And again, not necessarily confidence, but that cockiness is going to build.
Right.
So social media can be a tool for good, but it can also be something that brings young people's confidence down because they feel like they have to compete with everyone else in the world to generate these likes. And they may not be doing things that are age appropriate or even just appropriate at all to generate that fake confidence. So sometimes we just need to take a step back, because I do think kids should be using social media because you get to see a wider, like you get to see a bigger world. It's not just your little community. Because when we're younger, we tend to live like whatever neighborhood, city that we're in, that's our world. And with social media, you can see that bigger world. You can see different cultures. But if kids aren't monitored while using social media, if kids aren't told that this is not a way to generate true confidence, then that's what they're going to believe true confidence comes from. Now, it's hard because you got to give kids a little bit of freedom. But I think parents have that conversation with their kids that, number one, social media life is not real life. I'm going to
that's super huge.
Like I'll make I don't want to say names. I know a few social media influencers, and if you see, and I mean people with like 100K plus followers.
Right.
I know someone who's close to, actually may be at 1 million followers now. And the life that you see that person living on social media, it looks glamorous. It looks absolutely glamorous. You would think that person's living the high life in all these cities and all these things. And in actuality, that person's life was nowhere near where their social media life showed that they were. They weren't living that way. They didn't have the means to afford a lot of the things, but they put it out there, kind of like the law of attraction. And now, as they're becoming more and more popular, they're starting to live that life more and more. But what they were showing wasn't the truth at that moment. It was the truth that they wanted. So they put it out there, again, like the law of attraction. They put it out there, and now they're slowly getting it. But the life that you see that they're living isn't necessarily the life that they're really living. I'll even say that with a lot of social media couples. You'll look at online and you'll see these great couples on social media. I mean, they look fantastic. And every night they're arguing, they're fighting, they're sleeping in different rooms. But online, they look like they live the perfect life. So you can't believe everything that you see on TV, on social media, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. It's not all real. It's another world. So you have to realize that. And then also know that before you start trying to use social media to build your confidence, you have to build true confidence outside of the online world and then kind of jump into it, because the online world will bring you down. You'll think people are here, and then you feel here, but in actuality, they're at the same place as you. They're trying to show that they live a better life. So it's okay to log off sometimes.
I like the points that you put in there, because like you were saying, like, we need to be able to monitor what kids are doing online, but at the same time, we need to be able to give them a little bit of freedom, right? So parents, we're not saying like don't allow your kids to go online at all, but like she said, just have a talk with your kids. Let them know that you should not be basing your life, your confidence, your image off of a social image, right? All of that confidence comes from within. And if you guys are having a hard time about kind of figuring out how to do that, Mel's going to be talking a little bit about that on the Teen Warrior Summit, right? So make sure to join us on there so you guys can get that. Bishavit, I hope that I'm saying your name right, coming in from India. Awesome. Naomi says, great points, Mel. Katie says, so important. Is social media distracting us from our goal? I'm an entrepreneur and sometimes I feel like that. Okay. You want to go on that, Mel?
Yeah. So I will say, if you're not monitoring your social media usage, I would say yes. Because again, social media is a great tool. I use social media all the time, and it's brought me a lot of success. Social media has brought me a lot of success. But so let's say my show. I have a show on social media. I also have a show on TV. My show on social media is Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. I will go on there. I will do the show. I'll answer some comments afterwards if I don't answer them live on the show. And then I'm done. I may check back later on to speak to people, but I'm not going to obsess about it. I know that I need to limit the amount of time that I spend on social media because there's so much other things I need to be doing with my time. So it comes down to prioritizing what's important. So something that I've seen works with a lot of people is they'll say, I'm on social media for this amount of time in the morning and this amount of time in the day. And then after that, they don't go to it constantly, because you don't have to be on social media constantly. And honestly, you shouldn't be on it constantly unless your job is a social media content creator. Like, unless your job is actually social media, that's a little bit different. But it's a great tool. You can grow your business tremendously, but you do have to make sure that you are prioritizing your time. So social media gets its time, office time gets its time, calling people, cold calls, things like, you just have to make sure everything that gets its time gets its actual time. You can even set a timer. I know that was something that was really important. And I'll actually take you guys back in time to when I first started my first company. Like, I started writing all these rules that I had for myself. And it was something that helped me tremendously get my first company off the ground. And one of it was, I was only allowed to go on social media for 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes at the evening. And I realized that before that, I thought I didn't have enough time to do everything. I was like, oh my gosh, there's not enough time in the day. But then I realized that I was wasting so much time just like picking up my phone. I'd be like, oh, scrolling. And I'm thinking I'm scrolling for 2 minutes and I'm actually scrolling for 30 minutes to an hour. So I realized I reclaimed so much of my time by limiting what I was posting on social media. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some things that may need like immediate attention. So they'll ding on my phone. I'm like, oh, this needs my immediate attention. I need to deal with this right now. And that's more so for like current events on the show. But limit your time. You don't have, like, social media is a time drainer, and we don't realize how much time we actually spend on it, because you think you're spending like 5 minutes here, and it's built for that. And okay, I'll jump into that really quickly. I'm going to use Facebook as an example. The Facebook algorithm is actually put into place to keep you on the app longer and longer and longer and longer.
Yep.
That's the whole point of the algorithm, is to keep you glued to your phone so you spend longer and longer and longer times. So it's not necessarily a, oh my gosh, I have no self-control. It's that they've done research to see what can they put in front of you to force you to hold that phone and scroll for longer and longer amounts of times. So you have to be conscious about how much you're spending on social media, because they are very conscious about how much time they want you to spend on social media.
Exactly. Guys, I say it all the time, and she clearly just like stated it to be true. We are only about 5% conscious throughout the day, right? The other 95% of our day is just running off of our subconscious. So if they've created an algorithm to literally tap into your subconscious, be like, hey, Naomi, like, stay on here, Daisha, stay on here, right? Of course, that's what's going to happen. But if you become more aware, right? And like she said, section out your time. If you're going to be going on social media, have a dedicated reason other than, oh, I'm just bored, so I'm going to allow myself to be sucked in. So Mel, with you being able to kind of section out your time and know exactly what you're doing on a daily basis, do you think that's kind of helped you with kind of raising your confidence level a little bit, because you know exactly what needs to be done throughout the day?
Exactly. So I prioritize. The way I don't just like say, here's my list of things. I know a lot of people, they'll put a list out, right? People love to make lists. But you're probably not going to get to everything on your list. And as you're like, oh man, I didn't get to everything on my list, it starts kind of draining your confidence in what you can accomplish. Prioritize. Make your list. And what are the top 3 things? And again, it varies from people. What are the top 3 things that you have to accomplish? So you know that if you accomplish these 3 things, that, okay, I had a really good day because these 3 things are what's going to drive me forward. And then as you start having like the little other things that you have to do, you can start chipping away at them. But sometimes tasks can take longer. I mean, a lot of times I will set unrealistic goals. I'm like, I can do this in an hour. I got this. And I'll give myself some wiggle room. And sure enough, that hour job was a 3-hour job that needed to be done that day. Things happen. Things happen. Sometimes with the show, because I produce my show that's on TV, the Mel Show, on Amazon TV, Roku TV, and Apple TV, all on the Easy Way Network. Sorry, I have to plug that in. The Mel Show, check it out. Like sometimes, because I produce it too, so I'm just not the host of the show. I actually produce it. I have executive producers, but I'm a producer of the show as well. Sometimes just rendering and sending it back and forth, because with COVID-19, we can't meet in person. So we're sending these files back, large 4K files back and forth. And I can't act on something until I get the okay and this network thing back and forth. And sometimes it can take hours to render something because they're large files. And I didn't plan for that. So it's
Right.
okay. It's okay. So schedule your day, but make sure that you have those asterisks next to what's urgent, what's most important. And if you accomplish those 3, 4 things, then you know that you've had a really productive day, even though you couldn't conquer everything on your list.
That's a really good point because we're always going to have things to do, guys, right? We're
Yeah.
always going to have things to do. Like Mel said, we like to make lists, right? We're just humans. We like to make lists. So if you
Mhm,
are ending up making that list, like she said, order it in order of importance. Put those little
mhm.
asterisk marks next to the ones that are most important. Get them done throughout the day, right? And then you know that you got it, right? So last question here for you.
Okay.
Naomi says apps are built to keep you on them 100%. So knowing what you know now, before
Mhm,
we get off, what is one piece of advice that you would give to a teenager who was going through a difficult time with self-confidence? And what
mhm.
is one piece of advice that you could give to a parent who may have a child or maybe even themselves going through that self-confidence issue?
So for the teenager, I would tell them, again, this is going to sound so kind of cliche and kids may not want to hear it because right now teenagers think that this right now is the most important time of their life. And the thing about it is this time will pass. It's okay. I want teenagers to know that it's okay. You have a long life ahead of you and it's okay. If you are scared that you're going to fail, it's okay. Everyone fails. I failed huge. And when you guys watch me at the Teen Warrior Summit, I'm going to talk about some huge failures that I had. But without those failures, I wouldn't be as successful as I am now. So it's going to be okay. Work on building yourself from the inside and don't worry too much about what other people think, especially in high school. High school is a tough time, guys. High school is a tough time. But once you kind of break free from high school, you'll realize that the world is much bigger than those little walls that were holding you in high school. So know that it's going to be okay and know that you don't have to worry about everyone's constant opinion on you because man, I mean, high school is such a judgmental place. It's such a judgmental place. And then for parents, I think this is really important for parents is let your kids know that it's okay to fail. I know a lot of times
Mm,
as parents in those formative years, we're constantly pushing, pushing, pushing. You gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta get into this college, you gotta get this score, this and that. In the real world, and you'll know this as parents, you're going to fail sometime. But let the kids know that it's okay to fail as long as you use it as a learning opportunity. Let the kids know that you are there to support them. Let your teenager know that you are there to support them if things go bad. Now, this is something that I saw my parents do with my younger brother, and I was really in awe about it. Is that when my younger brother failed or did something crazy, he was actually a really good kid though. But like if he did something like, and when I say crazy, it wasn't even that crazy. But if he did something, my mom wouldn't necessarily yell at him. She would have a conversation with him. And she'd be like, listen, you messed up,
mm,
man. You messed up. So how are we going to fix this? How are we going to go about it? And they were able to have a conversation. And and don't get me wrong, when he needed to be grounded, they would still have a conversation. And she would still, ground him and put those disciplines in lines. But it was never a scream fest. It was never putting him down. And what started to happen was my brother, my younger brother, would come to my mom about everything.
ah, that's
Everything.
awesome.
Like, I mean, things my mom was talking to me now. She's like, man, your brother would come and tell me things. I don't want to know that. She's like, I'm not gonna tell him no. And I mean, like things that his friends would do that or things that he would do that you would never think of telling your parents, right? And like with me as a kid, if my parents would ask me, I would tell them. I had no point in lying. Like, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. If you ask me, I'm going to tell you. You can agree with it or not. But with my brother, he would just go to my mom and be like, "Oh my gosh, you won't believe what happened to me in school today." And my mom's like, "Okay, that's nice, but let's talk about this. Maybe you shouldn't have done." Like, and they would have a conversation. But no matter what it was, from sex to someone offering him drugs to doing that, to think, "Oh, I want to try this one day," and my mom would be like, "Well, let's stop there." But he had the opportunity to
Talk
talk to
about.
my mom and have the
Yeah.
conversation because he wasn't afraid of my mom yelling at him and berating him because he failed at something or because he wasn't living up to their expectations. They set their expectations, but they opened their door so my brother can talk to them. And that was really great watching that happen kind of in real time. Even though I was living like in a different state, I like still watching it in real time. was actually really interesting. And I thought it was a really good dynamic that they had.
That's so
So,
cool. So
yeah.
guys, oh yeah, no, go ahead now.
No, I was just going to say, so parents, let your kids know that it's okay to fail as long as they use it as a learning opportunity and they work towards a better path. And then be open to talking to your kids. Your kids are going to tell you some shocking things sometimes. Your teenagers are going to do some shocking things, but you were a teenager before, and you know teenagers will be teenagers. But just if you set the expectation that you know they're going to fail and it's going to be okay and you guys can work past it, they'll be a lot more open to you about what's happening.
Which I think is going to build up confidence altogether,
Yep.
like way higher too. You know, as a kid, when you're afraid to talk to your parent, like that can break
Mm-hmm.
down your confidence alone, right? You don't know if you
Yep.
trust them. It's hard to trust yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have someone you can go to, they can be open and just completely
Mm-hmm.
talk it out without feeling judgment behind
Yep.
that. It'll allow that confidence to kind of go a little bit more. So Rose says cute, and that should be it. All right, guys, thank you again for joining us on today's video. Make sure to head over to teenwarriorsummit.com. You guys are able to purchase tickets there, right? Our event is, oh man, it's next month, guys. We have less than a month, guys, until this is here. I am so excited. All right, Mel, is there anything else that you wanted to say before we hop off?
Sure, you already have the confidence inside of you, and you just need to push it to the forefront. So come check out the Teen Warrior Summit. I'm gonna be talking more about that, and there's a lot of other amazing speakers that will help you push that confidence to the forefront so you can live the life that you want to live, because now is the time to motivate, educate, and empower you to be the best you that you can. And if you're looking for a show to motivate, educate, and empower, you can also check out my TV show on the Easy Way channel on Amazon TV, Roku TV, and Apple TV as well.
All right, guys, we appreciate you so much. We'll catch you on teenwarriorsummit.com. Bye for now.